everyone, my name is Farah, and in this video, me and my group will be talking about how cells grow. Me specifically, I'm going to be talking about what is cell growth and what cells need in order to grow, and then the other slides will go into more details about the cell cycle and how the cell connects to biological engineering. When we say cell growth, we don't just mean that the cell gets bigger and that's it. Cells grow by getting larger and then dividing into two new cells. Over many rounds of growth and division, one cell can turn into millions of cells. This happens in our bodies as we grow and heal, and it can also be done in labs where scientists grow cells for research or just to make useful products. For cells to grow and divide, they need a few important things. Firstly, they need nutrients such as sugars and amino acids that helps them build their new cell parts. Secondly, they need energy, which is typically in the form of ATP, which works as a fuel for the cell. Cells also must be in the right conditions, such as a good temperature, good pH, and enough oxygen for them to actually grow to divide. Lastly, cells need signals, which are called growth factors, that tells them, hey, this is the right time to grow and divide. Understanding these conditions is very crucial for us as biological engineers because we can actually control them to grow cells however we want. And now I'm going to pass it to Hanouf to talk about how the mechanism
Okay, so now let's understand more deeply on how the cell cycle works. So on the slide, you can see the basic cell cycle, which is a repeating pattern of growth and division. So here we start off with the G1 phase, and in this phase, the cell is just doing its normal job. It grows, makes proteins and organelles, and gets ready for the next steps. Then we move on to S phase, and so S here stands for synthesis. Here, the cell copies its DNA, so each chromosome is duplicated. Next, we have the G2 phase, where the cell grows a bit more and prepares to divide. It builds the tools it needs for cell division. Finally, the M phase, or mitosis. In mitosis, the cell will divide into two daughter cells. The key idea here is that the cell cycle is controlled and not like random. So the cell only moves forward if the conditions are like right. Alrighty, so now we're gonna look more deeply into mitosis. So over here you can see like all the different steps. So initially the chromosomes will condense, so they become more like short and thick and like easier to move. Then the chromosomes line up in the middle of the cell. Next, the chromosomes separate, the copies are pulled apart to opposite sides of the cell, and then finally the cell splits into two identical daughter cells. So the big takeaway here is, cell growth is a cycle of growth, DNA copying, and division. Now that we understand how cells divide, we can ask, how do biological engineers use this knowledge for like cell growth, sorry. So now we're gonna move on to Fatma, and she's gonna explain that for us.
Now, I will start talking about how cells grow in biological engineering. We have two parts: cell growth in bioreactors. In labs and companies, we grow bacteria, yeast, or mammalian cells in flasks or bioreactors because they can make important products like insulin, vaccines, and enzymes. For cells to grow well, we must control their environment, especially the nutrients, temperature, pH, and oxygen levels. If any of these are off, the cells won't grow properly. The second part is growth curve. When we grow cells, they don't grow fast at the beginning. They start slow and it's the lag phase. Then they enter a fast exponential growth phase, and eventually slow down again when nutrients run out or waste builds up. We need to understand why it matters. Understanding how cells grow help biological engineers control the process, increase product yield, and keep the cells healthy. It also helps prevent contamination and ensure that the medicines we produce are safe and effective. In conclusion, that's why mastering cell growth is essential in biological engineering. It allows us to turn living cells into valuable products that improve people's life. Thank you. At the end, we have this activity for you guys to try, and it's crossword puzzles. There's crosswords and downwards as vertical and horizontal. We want you guys to try it, and the next slide is going to show you the answers if you got it right or wrong. Thank you guys for listening, and we wish you enjoyed our presentation and you learned something new of how cells grow.